Have you considered living in an amenity-rich, newly built high-rise with massive, massive views? With the softness we're seeing in the condo market, it might be the perfect time to buy a luxury condo in San Francisco. I'm going to break down where you can find the best opportunities, possible incentives, and show you inside a few of these beautiful, beautiful homes, generally at the $5 million price point and above. Okay, so where is this happening in San Francisco? What kind of deals are we talking about? And what's the inventory actually like? The main takeaway is that the luxury condo market has been shifting in favor of buyers. There are pretty major deals and opportunities out there if this is the type of inventory you have your eye on. So let's look at a map. Where is this located in San Francisco? So we're talking about the sort of eastern edge here of the city. You have water views galore and massive bridge views too. So we're talking in terms of sub-neighborhoods, Yerba Buena right here, south of Market, and then South Beach. So these are kind of the three main hubs where you see most of these luxury high-rise properties. So what does luxury really mean? You said 5 million and above, okay? How much further above are we talking? These units can definitely range past the $10 million and even past the $15 million range. And there have been a few properties listed in the $30 to $40 million range, if you can believe that, all within this luxury condo space. I'm going to show you one active property on the market right now so you have a better sense. This property is at the 181 Fremont building, a sort of quintessential newer high-rise in San Francisco. 68th floor, you can see beautiful renovation, beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows. It's priced at $15.5 million, 3256 square feet, and the price per square foot on that is a whopping $4,700 and above. You get 2 beds, 2.5 baths, and 2 car parking for that. Let me show you one more as well. So this is a sold property. It sold in 2021. It's at the 1 Stewart Lane property. It's on the 19th floor. It's not as tall of a building as 181 Fremont. This one sold already, 3 beds, 3 baths, $9.7 million range, 2,900 plus square feet. And the price per square foot in terms of where this landed was 3,300 square feet. You get 3 beds, 3 baths, and 1 car parking for this one. So that's just a little bit of those sort of data points so you know what we're talking about here. Those are 2 examples, but generally speaking, in terms of size, we're talking about 2,500 to about 4,500 square feet. And with the prices for these units, the price per square foot tends to be between 2,500 and 4,500 square feet. We saw kind of the upper range there for the 181 Fremont. OSL 1 Stewart Lane sold at the 3,300 mark. At 1 Stewart Lane, a total of 4 of its condos have sold for more than 4,000 a square foot. So it is definitely possible, but that is certainly the higher end of the range. If you're not as comfortable with price per square foot numbers in the city, totally get that. It's sort of realtor lingo. We like to use it as a data point to compare properties with one another. But let me give you a comparison so you have a better understanding of what those numbers mean. Another luxury product type in the city is, let's just use Noe Valley as an example, a done renovated home in that part of town. It's a very coveted area in the city. Most of the inventory is single family homes. So in this price range that we're talking, so in the $5 million and above, typically in this part of town, you're looking at 4 to 7 million, and the price per square foot for that inventory is between 1,400 and 2,000 a square foot. There have been a few properties that have hit above the 2,000 range, but those are definitely further and farther between. A lot of this does depend on total size, level of the finishes, obviously, floor plan, views, or walkability. But given what we're talking about in terms of price per square foot for these luxury condos, you can see there's quite a difference from even a luxury home in Noe Valley. So really we're talking about high-end finishes, exclusive luxury, massive floor-to-ceiling water and bridge views in most of the rooms. And of course, you're buying a newly built product within, the last few years. So what else are you getting on top of just the unit itself? On top of the cost of purchasing the home, a lot of these buildings have HOA dues, usually in the $2,000 to $4,000 range per month. And what you're getting for that is just a very amenity-rich building, 24/7 concierge services, state-of-the-art gyms, you have on-site bars and lounges, and I think most importantly, this pretty extensive and very tailored concierge service. So in one of the buildings, for example, 181 Fremont, you have your groceries delivered, someone brings them to your home, they can unload them into your fridge, just that's very high-end level of service, really catering to an owner's needs. So really what you're paying for here is almost a lifestyle over and above anything else. Service is sort of the key to these buildings, and that's a huge selling point for a lot of buyers. Okay, so enough with the nitty-gritty. I want to step inside one of these buildings. Okay, Lauren, give me a sneak peek. So the standout buildings to talk about are really 1 Stewart Lane, 181 Fremont, the Four Seasons residences, the Avery and Mira. Those are kind of the prime new developments that have been built over the last few years. So if you want a grand tour of these high rises and you want to do it yourself online, just kind of do some data digging, I would go to our new development website. It has all of the new development condos that are available in the city. It has videos. We've created vlogs for each of these properties, so you can really step inside, start comparing one building to the next, and it's just a really good resource. You probably spend a lot of time on this page just kind of soaking it in, so definitely start there. But I'm not gonna keep you waiting. I wanna step inside one of these buildings with you today, so let's take a look inside the Four Seasons residences. Let's go.
Welcome to the Four Seasons Residences located at 706 Mission Street in the heart of the Yerba Buena neighborhood. I'm Yesenia Rogers.
And I'm Laura Nushell. We're gonna walk you through this luxury property. Right now we're standing in the lobby of the Aronson Building, one of the 2 towers that comprise this property. The Aronson Building is 10 stories tall and its sister contemporary property is 45 stories, comprising 146 residences between the two. What makes this property so special is the mix of the scale of each residence, plus the luxury experience of living here and the service that is known worldwide from the Four Seasons family. Since we're standing in this lobby, Yesenia, tell us more about the Aronson property.
The Aronson Building was originally constructed in 1903, and it's one of the only buildings to have survived the great 1906 earthquake. Today, while preserving its historic facade, it has been completely restored. Some of those updates include refurbished wood-sashed windows throughout, reworked terracotta material, and more exposure of the inner substructure of the ceiling slabs. We're so excited to take you around. Let's go check it out.
We're here on the 37th floor of the Contemporary Tower in one of the residences. You can see around me that the sheer scale of this property is so unique. The design principles behind the way each of these layouts work is centered around a grand entryway, living space that's on the corner of the unit with floor-to-ceiling windows on 2 walls, defined dining space, a grand kitchen at the center of the home, and then also these smaller rooms that serve as informal family rooms or offices outside of the main living space. All residences have access to concierge and service providers at their beck and call. I'm standing here in one of the lounge spaces of the amenities floor. There's a boardroom, a chef's kitchen where local and celebrity chefs have come and served to residences. There's also a really cool game room where people can have parties, bring their friends around. It's definitely replete with everything that you'd need. If you want some outdoor space as well, there's a deck area that wraps around the side next to the bar. It looks out over the MoMA and the rest of the city. What also makes this living experience so unique is just the idea of living amongst a brand that is the Four Seasons. It's such a global network of experts, individuals, people, travel. So when you're going abroad, you have those resources here to help you and create these experiences that are unmatched. The Four Seasons is definitely well equipped and you would never have to leave. You can have all the experiences in your home. Okay, so what a stunning property. I'm sure your interest is piqued. So let's talk about what the deals actually look like that are happening in these buildings. Are we talking about $100,000 off, more? Let's get into it. So when we look at sales in South Beach, Yerba Buena, and Soma, over $5 million in the initial period of selling pre-pandemic, so 2018, 2019, the average price per square foot was $2,200. If we pull the last year of sales and what's actually currently sitting on the market that's active in these neighborhoods, we're down $300 a square foot on average. And there's likely more negotiations and price cutting to be had because not all of these units have sold. Listings over $4 million in South Beach, Yerba Buena are currently selling at, on average, 114 days on the market. So things are just moving slower. People are hesitant to buy in these properties at the moment. Because there's so much inventory out there, buyers are certainly taking their time. They have a lot to choose from. And in many cases, buyers are trying to figure out where they can get the best deal and doing a lot of comparison to kind of arrive at that decision. One Stewart Lane has quite a good amount of inventory in the $7 to $12 million range. So one example, one unit previously listed for about $8.2 million is now listed at $6.9 million. So the price per square foot difference there is $3,000 a square foot, now down to $2,565 a square foot. The Avery, another good example, they're advertising 20% reductions on select homes, and that's a very proactive advertisement. So they are definitely wanting to sell the rest of their units. We were actually able to negotiate a property at 181 Fremont for one of our buyers for $1 million less than the list price. Of course, that's not a guarantee for every property, for every building out there, but those deals are certainly happening. A few other examples I want to mention where a property was initially listed at one number and sold for a very different number. So the Lumina just had a sale that sold $1.3 million under the original list price. Another unit in the building sold $400,000 below where it sold in 2018. So 5 years ago. In the St. Regis, a property sold $800,000 below list price this year. So let's focus on another interesting point focused on resales of luxury high-rises. So most of what we've been talking about here are first-time sales in new buildings. That's been happening for the last 2 to 3 years in these buildings. The Lumina is an example of a slightly older building that is still considered kind of this core new development property in the city, but it's a few years older, so it's starting to turn over its first wave of resales. So that's the second owner purchasing in the building. It's been about 5 years since it initially launched. So not only are we finding opportunity in the new first-time buy properties, but also in the resale of those luxury units. So let's give you some examples. One unit in the building is currently listed for $550,000 below what it sold for in 2018, and another sold this year for $350,000 less than where the seller purchased in 2018. Another really important question that I think people need to ask is, what is the timeline for when developers may allow for more negotiations on these new developments? So if I'm a developer and I have over 100 units to sell, it's more important for me to hold strong on my value for as long as possible. And we do see that happening. So early sales are usually going to set the standard for the rest of the building, and they're going to be the comp used to get stronger prices for future sales. So as it gets down to the wire and there are fewer units left, or as markets change, in this case, and the developer has a tougher time selling inventory, there can be often more flexibility. So we do see more deals get done in the later stages of these buildings' releases, which is right now. Another really important thing to note is that a lot of negotiations are actually happening on the back end. And so the concessions you're seeing in terms of price are not the full amount of concessions had during a sale. Oftentimes you can negotiate HOA dues to be paid. So in a building like One Stewart Lane, a year's worth of dues can be over $40,000 or $50,000. So oftentimes we're negotiating 1 to 2 years worth of HOA dues paid by the developer. sometimes we're also getting closing costs covered. It's important to note that this is very building and developer specific, so you should reach out to an agent if you want more of that kind of inside scoop of what's happening in the building and what's possible. You really want agent representation so that you have the best shot of negotiating with the developer and knowing really how to go about it. Okay, you probably have more questions around why some of this inventory is sitting. Why are there deals to be had right now? What's going on with this part of town? A lot of this has to do actually with the timing around when these buildings were built and when they released their inventory. So according to a recent SF Chronicle article, it's estimated that 500 new condos came online between 2020 and 2022. A lot of the building taking place for those properties was done in sort of the 2017 to 2019 range, when values in San Francisco were higher, interest rates were lower, a lot of people were betting on these buildings doing really well. And so it kind of was this perfect storm that a lot of developers were having sort of the same idea, and a lot of this kind of came on at the very same time. So a lot of this inventory just hasn't sold yet, even if it's been a few years since the first release of the building. It's not uncommon for buildings to take several years to release. Of course, there's a ton of inventory that they have to sell, but we're seeing that the absorption rate just is slower than predicted. Based on some information from the last few months, more than half of the 120 condos at 1 Stewart Lane still remain vacant. The Four Seasons Residences has 146 units, and they're sort of facing the same conundrum. So what else is going on? A lot of economic changes. Foreign and local buyers have also been pausing on investments. During the building phase of a lot of these properties, there were a lot more foreign investors in the market. Many of them really liked the idea of purchasing a condo from afar, but one that they didn't have to manage really. They could put in renters, they knew that the building was well maintained and that there was a lot of care in terms of concierge services, security, and so 50% of those buyers were actually purchasing as either a vacation home, a rental home, or both. And that piece of the market has significantly declined. According to estimates from Compass and the National Association of Realtors, the number of existing homes purchased by foreign buyers on a national level just hit the lowest in at least 14 years. So that gives you kind of some perspective. Of course, we also know that the climate right now is higher interest rates, fluctuating stock market, geopolitical events, and then of course, local and national media attention and concerns for downtown San Francisco. You've probably heard that South Beach and Soma were hit harder than most parts of San Francisco. We're seeing that condo sales tend to be around the 2014 level in this part of town. None of these buildings were built at that time, and so we don't really have a proxy that far back. But if we just compare condo sales in general in this part of town, it's around the 2014 level. The rest of the city right now is somewhere between 2017 and 2018 levels. Of course, all of this really depends on product type, location, property-specific characteristics. We are still seeing some hot properties selling that are, doing significantly better than 2017, 2018, so it does really depend. If you haven't already, take a second to subscribe to our YouTube channel. My name is Lauren Newshell, and I talk to people like you all the time who want to know the ins and outs of the luxury condo market or other properties in San Francisco, and I'd love to help you think through the best opportunities for you right now. Okay, so what's the silver lining, and is there one? You're probably thinking, well, how do I know if it's the bottom right now? If other people aren't buying in this part of town, why should I? And what's really going to happen with downtown San Francisco? So downtown is definitely quieter than it's ever been. It's also emptier than it's ever been, but we are starting to see people come back to the office. It's slower than we'd like to see it, but it definitely is happening, and we believe it will more and more. There are also concerns around vacancies, especially on the commercial front, but with that is also some interesting opportunity. So it is affording more companies the opportunity to be downtown who have not been able to before. So for example, we're seeing AI companies moving downtown, and many are speculating that betting on AI is actually cause for appreciation and potentially revitalization of downtown. And I think if you believe in that, and a lot of people do, then getting into these condos at a very low price could be a very interesting play. Of course, there's risk involved in that. There usually is when there's such a massive upside potential. Of course, there are things to solve for in San Francisco. You've probably read about a million articles on the doom loop, and the New Yorker recently stated that downtown San Francisco has seen its highest retail vacancy since 2006. Not a good data point for San Francisco. But in addition to these string of articles about the city, there have also been some really promising opinions on where downtown could go. And a large part of that really does surround AI. So there was a actually positive recent Washington Post article, one about big tech cities actually really thriving in this post-pandemic world, and that tech has really favored the big city. San Francisco, Seattle, New York are significantly rebounding. Their population losses have abated and they remain major hubs for innovation. So a really good talking point about the city. San Francisco is one of 5 of the country's AI capitals. And from July 2022 to July 2023, nearly half of job postings in generative AI were published in these 5 capitals, including San Jose. So we have 2 players there, San Francisco, San Jose for the Bay Area. In another Washington Post article about San Francisco specific to AI, they mentioned that 3 of the main AI players are all within city limits, and that AI is actually really emerging as this like bright spot and catalyst for the city and its next chapter, even comparing it to when the iPhone came out and the internet movement. And they talk about how fundraising has really increased for AI in San Francisco. Specifically, there's been $6 billion more raised this year for AI in SF than there was last year. Some even funny and interesting points about how there are AI hot pockets in the city. Hayes Valley apparently has now become known as Cerebral Valley, and parts of downtown are also being called the Arena because there's a lot of AI talent emerging there, hacker houses popping up. So kind of an interesting article to read to get another perspective on where the city could go and what's really already happening here. So a lot of opportunity, a lot of buzz, a lot of things that are actually really exciting for the city. It's opening new doors and conversations. All that to be said, there's of course truth to the challenges that we face as a city. So before you move to San Francisco, before you invest in a $10 million luxury condo, watch our video on the 10 reasons not to move to San Francisco so you really know what you're getting into. If you want to know more about luxury condos, go again to that new development page where we have a bunch of vlogs. We're here to help you make a smooth move to the city. Give us a call if you have more questions. Send us an email or check out our contact info below.